Let's face it, fusion is one of the most integral parts of the Dragon Ball franchise, and when you look at characters like Gogeta, Vegito, Gotenks, and Kefla, there have been a numerous amount of fusion characters in the Dragon Ball series that have created a lot of questions to Dragon Ball fans. And in this video today, I will present to you guys 5 theories and 5 Dragon Ball questions about things that we will actually never know the exact answer to. And some of these questions are actually quite bizarre and intriguing when you really think about it. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video and let's buckle up for some of these weird questions. So the first question comes into, what if a male fused with a female? And I understand that this is definitely going to spark a lot of you to think about the old Kai in the Buu saga, where if you guys remember, the old Kai actually fused with a witch, and that's essentially why he looks the way he is and also has all of these unique abilities. But because of the fact that that was actually done with a Potara fusion, a lot of people have theorized that because the Elder Kai was the dominant force in the fusion with the witch, well, that is why he ultimately ended up becoming a male, at least from what we know. But the question is, what if a male and a female actually fused using the Metamaries form of fusion? And the reason why it makes it unique is because it was specifically mentioned that the Metamaries fusion is done by 2 people having around the same size and around the same power. Now, obviously, this would be very different from the old Kai and the Witch, which he would have much more power with. And if I were to actually give my theory as to what if a male actually fused with a female character, I'm going to have to take the route that Dragon Ball video games has actually touched upon, and this is actually dealing with Dragon Ball Heroes and Dragon Ball Fusions, where there have been fusions of both Android 17 and Android 18, and in certain cases it was referred to as Android 17 absorbed with Android 18, which was referring to Android 17 being still a male, but just having Android 18's influence and power added to his own. Whereas with Dragon Ball Heroes, Android 17-18 is essentially a fusion of Android 17 and 18, which, as you would guess, probably might have both parts or no parts. But the question is really up to you guys as to how curious you actually are about that question. And to move on to the next mystery about fusion questions here, guys, it's actually dealing with children and adults. And this is a simple fact of, what if a child fused with an adult? Now, this form of fusion would actually be much more possible with the Potara fusion as opposed to the Metamaries art of fusion, because if you guys remember, as I said before, if you have to be around the same size and power, the size difference between a child and an adult can make that a very skewed type of fusion. And even if you say GT is not canon, they kind of touched upon this when Goku ran out of energy when he was fusing with Vegeta and actually became a child, and you saw how awkward it was for Vegeta to actually try and fuse with such a much shorter Goku. So when we translate this question into a Potara fusion, in theory, what if a character like Goten from the Buu saga was able to fuse with a character such as Gohan? Well, my answer to this would probably be that, realistically speaking, I think we can all say that if Goten were to fuse with a much older Gohan, then their character that they would fuse into would be somewhat of like an age balance in between them. So if Goten is 7 and Gohan is 16 to 18, depending on if you go with the manga or the anime adaptation, then their fusion character would be an age in between both of those specific characters, and it would also be a height difference that would be in between both Goten and Gohan. So I have a theory that I think makes sense when it comes to fusing a child character with an adult character. And although Goten was not exactly a child, there was a point during the Buu saga where Gohan was going to fuse with a much older Goku, and even though Gohan was much closer to an adult at that point of his life, that character would have definitely been somewhat of a balance in age. But because Gohan was already so old at that point, I think we disregard that as a situation point. Now, the next question has been something that has been in a lot of fan fiction stories and a lot of different fan theories out there in the Dragon Ball franchise. And this is, what if Vegito fused with Gogeta? And I'm using those two as an example to illustrate the fusion concept of, what if a person using the Metamarise dance fused with the same type of people using a Potara fusion? Now, in theory, you would think that this would be impossible to happen because of the fact that that would require 2 Gokus and 2 Vegetas, so how would you get 4 Gokus and 4 Vegetas in total to all fuse with each other? Well, there's one simple way to this, and the simple method of this all happening would simply be time travel. So in theory, if Goku and Vegeta learned how to do the fusion dance in the present, and then they also grabbed a pair of Potara earrings from the future, and they went to the same timeline, and they all decided to fuse with each other once one did the dance and once the other one shared the earring with each other, how would this all result? Well, from what we know, because they're all mortals regardless of what would happen, so essentially Goku and Vegeta would do the fusion dance, another Goku and Vegeta would put on the Potara fusion, and then while the Gogeta is still fused, then the Vegeta would give one of the Potara earrings over to the Gogeta, and that would essentially create this ultimate fusion of Gogeta. Guys, I know that this is a very ridiculous concept, and I understand that this would never happen in the Dragon Ball franchise, but theoretically it is possible for this to happen, and this would be the only way that this theory could actually come into fruition. Now, the next fusion theory that I wanted to talk to you guys about is actually dealing with Captain Ginyu, and what makes this quite fascinating is that theoretically this is one of the fusion questions that there really is absolutely no way to even conceive of this. And this is the fact is, what if Captain Ginyu switched bodies with a fusion? What will happen to that fusion once they diffused after any point in time? Now, this is very weird because if 2 people go into one body and Ginyu took over that one person's body, then Ginyu would have control of that body. But once that body diffused back into 2 individual people, does this now mean that Ginyu is now like a clone in 2 people at once? So if Ginyu stole Gotenks' body, now he's both Goten and he's Trunks at the same time, and now his mind is essentially becoming the spirit form of 2 different characters? You guys are seeing where I'm coming with this, and I definitely think this is one of the theories that we will never find out about fusion, but if I were to guess, I think I'm gonna have to go with the bizarre concept of Ginyu being split into 2 bodies at once. And last but not least, guys, if there was one more question about fusion that we have to talk about today, it's actually dealing with Kefla. Now, a lot of you who follow me on Twitter probably predicted this, and a lot of you who follow a lot of Kanzenshu forums, or if you see a lot of Dragon Ball articles, you have seen a very popular question among Dragon Ball fans. And this is dealing with the fact that Kefla is a female fusion. Now, this is a little bit more X-rated, but essentially, if Kefla is in her fusion state, and an individual were to have intercourse with Kefla and to impregnate Kefla while she is fused, then if Kefla diffuses into both Kale and Caulifla again, does this now mean that in the 9 to 10 months that will actually go forward, that both Kale and Caulifla will be pregnant at the same time, or will one of them have the baby, or will both of them have the baby, or will none of them have the baby? This is one of the most bizarre fusion questions that I definitely think will never be answered in the Dragon Ball franchise, and I only think the dirty mind of Dragon Ball fans could even come up with the concept of even asking a question as to whether or not a character being impregnated while they were fused will actually result in them actually being pregnant in 2 separate bodies. And I think this is similar to the Captain Ginyu one, where an event happens to the fused character and you don't exactly know what will actually happen to the 2 fusees as a result of all of this, guys. So I think this question is bizarre, guys, but I've shared my thoughts on this. But ultimately, guys, if you have any more questions or theories about Dragon Ball fusions, and specifically I'm talking about fusions where we don't really know the answer to, these are questions that are completely theoretical and fans, and things that we will never have the answer to, but we can create our theories, have some fun in the comment section below, and just always keep it in the back of our heads as to how that would actually play out if Dragon Ball actually managed to do this. So I appreciate you for all of your time, and please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.